Okay, so welcome to fresh new module. In our previous module, we were able to give a simple command to our codex, that is ChatGPT code assistant, and then we simply just said, I want to build a simple restaurant landing page with only HTML for now, no CSS, no JS. And then it created a full HTML only restaurant landing page at index.html. Okay. And we have something like that here. And as you can see, we have this landing page without CSS. CSS, for those who don't know, is a cascaded style sheet. It's meant for styling your code. Okay. So we further went ahead to say add CSS, and then it created this CSS file, this particular CSS file. And if you notice that it's not taking effect on our web page for now, that is because at the end of the class, we disconnected it to see how it looks again. And what did you do? How do we bring it down without even telling the AI to connect it? You can just simply come to the head section of your code. Just come to the head, okay? Just come to the head of your code and then go ahead and say something like link. You can just put in link. And then because you want to link your CSS. So yes, just say link CSS and I'll save it. And the moment I save it, it will take effect immediately on the page. Okay, so so it will immediately, now it's supposed to immediately take effect. So let's see what is wrong. So you can see that we misspelled styles. This is style, it's not styles. So I'm just going to save it again and then go back to our page. And because we are using a live test server, I should automatically, can you see it? This looks so beautiful. As simple as this. This is your about, this is your menu, this is your, and this is your contact. All right, so, but this is not where we are going in this lesson. So today, we are going to start with, now, we're going to start by reading this CSS file, and then you'll see a basic stuff. So I will explain all of this. I will explain CSS in this module, and then what is CSS, how does it work, and this code generated, why are they generated? All right, so let's get into that. So CSS, if you go to W3 schools, for instance, W3 schools, okay? If you go to W3 schools, you will find a very huge library of CSS. You can see we start with HTML. Now we're on CSS. We'll get to JavaScript very soon. And then we'll go to SQL, we jump and we'll come back to PHP. Now, from what we have here, this said contain over 700 examples. Okay, they're just talking about what they have. All right, let's go to introduction of CSS. So this says, what is CSS? CSS stands for cascading style sheet. CSS describe how HTML elements are to be displayed on the screen, paper, or in the media. So think of CSS like this. You have built the carcass of your house, and let's do it like this. when you build your house, you have built the frame. I don't want this. I want a box. I want sharp edge. Yes. You have built the carcass of your house. Okay. Now, HTML gives you this whole carcass. Okay. It gives you everything. It gives you, it gives you texts. It gives you text. Okay. It gives you images. It gives you buttons. It gives you buttons somewhere here. It gives you further text or paragraph. So it gives you paragraph. Okay. It gives you sections. It gives you subsections. It gives you subsections and many more. So HTML gives you all of that conveniently, right? It gives you all of that conveniently. But what HTML did not give you is how to structure them. So naturally, you want this image to be here. Okay. You want this text to be here. You want button. You want buttons to be somewhere here. You want another section somewhere here. You want your another image here. You want your text images here. HTML can never know how to arrange this. The job of a CSS, cascading style sheet, is to now put all of it together and give it a reality. Let's use an app, for example. So you open your mobile app, okay? Typically, you have what is usually called a navigation bar. You have your navigation bar somewhere up here, okay? That most times, always just here, most times carries, let's say, a thumbnail image, the name of the page, say, home screen. You won't get to see home screen anyway. You see dashboard. No developer will name a page home screen, okay? So you see dashboard. Let me zoom this in. Yeah. So you see dashboard, okay? You see dashboard. Let's get this. Okay. You see dashboard or profile. Let's call it profile. So you see profile. Okay. And then you have an hamburger button here. Commonly, oh, you have a notification button. Let's put a notification button here. You have a notification button here. No, I'll leave it as black and then I'll put this as red. Let's make it red. Okay, more colors, please. Yes, let's make it red. Okay, so you have a notification button. Usually it has a number called, say 12. So you have 12 notifications. Okay. All right. So you have this 12 notifications somewhere here. And then you have an hamburger button. Hamburger button here for more stuff. Okay. Now, what put all of this together? What put all of this together is okay, let me finish this. So you have large image here. So you have a large image here. Okay. You have a large image here. Okay, so you have large image here. And then you have some set of text here. Texts. Oh no, usually at this point you can have like a button, okay, a button very large, slightly larger, and you get it, right? So now let's try and see what happens with web. Let's see what happens with web at this junction. So while you are working with web, you have what you call the top navigation bar. Okay, you now have the top navigation bar. Then you have your hero section. You have your hero section. Inside your hero section, you have two images. You have images, or you have one image here. You have action button CTA. You have large texts. Let's say inside here you have your logo. You have your menu. Okay, you have menu. Let's call it home. Okay, about, contacts. You have contacts. Okay, you have all of that, and then you have CTA, action button, sign up now. Okay, and then you have large text here. You have large text here to say welcome to CSA Luther. Okay, now you have this large button. Okay, now what is happening here is that you are cascading your contents. That is what I want to explain. So you are cascading your content. So you need to understand that when they say CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on the screen, what they mean is that all of this that we've been doing, it was described by CSS, okay? So it was described by, so all of these arrangements was described by CSS, okay? All of this was described by CSS. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to our code base. There's something else I remember. I remember that we added a fav icon in the last class. So I removed it at some point. So let's add our fav icon. Our fav icon is also a link. Okay, so we want to link a fav icon, and then we want to describe where to find the image. So we just say images. Remember, we have a file called images. All right, and then we choose our file. If I save this, our fav icon will be back in a second. Okay, it should be back. All right, it should be back. All right, so do I still have that image? Okay. Well, let's check it out then. Oh, it's not this thing. Sorry, it's not this thing. Okay, so we have our fav icon now. All right, so let's go ahead and see how all of this. So this whole style describe how it should open. Now let's go back to W3 schools. Now let's look at CSS syntax. Let's look at CSS syntax. Okay. Now the syntax. So let's talk about CSS syntax. Okay. Right. Now, the first thing we must talk about here is the rule or the set CSS rules. So CSS contain, it has a rule, right? And that rule contain two parts. It has a selector and it has a declaration. So let me start with declaration so that it can be clear. All right, so if you are writing a CSS, let me go on a Scarlet Draw so that I can, so if you are writing a CSS block, for instance, if you're writing a CSS block, for instance, you want to make you want to start with a selector. So let's say selector, and we'll talk about all the types of selectors very shortly. And you put a declaration in a curly bracket. Okay, you put your declaration in a curly bracket, and your declaration has two parts: a property and a value. Okay, so let's start with property. It has a property, okay, and a value, ended with a semicolon. So you have a selector, okay, you start with a selector, all right. Then you have a property, okay, and then you have a value for that property. And I want you to pay attention to this, okay? And the two properties, I mean, well, no, not two now. The property is encapsulated in a curly bracket, okay? The property is encapsulated in a curly bracket, and that curly bracket, whatever is in that curly bracket, is called a declaration. I hope this is clear enough. I'll take that again, okay? I'll take that again. So it starts with, let me give a typical example. Let me use an element selector, for instance. If I say an element selector h1, and then I open a declaration. If an OG developer, you will know that when you want to start a declaration like that, you leave the two brackets open, okay, so that you won't forget. And I call it property. I say background, okay, background color, American English, of course, a column, and I say red, and I put a semicolon. Okay, I put a semicolon. I make another declaration. I make another declaration. I say font size, font size, font size, font size, font size. You put a semicolon, and I put a value to, I said 500 px. Okay, you don't need to master this. I'm just showing you for references. Now, if I go to our code base, for instance, you will notice that there is a global selector, which is roots. Okay, and then inside it there are declarations. These are declarations. Okay, and this declaration is global. That is why it's putting dash 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 dash. So dash dash bg top, and this is it. Dash dash, this is the property, this is the value. Okay, this is the property. So this is the property, and this is the value. Okay, so this is C property, C value. So the encapsulation of all properties and value is what becomes a declaration. And for a declaration to be valid or to be used, a selector, because the word selector is used to find or to select. Look at this place. We said body, that's the body of the HTML. So look at it. I'm calling on the body, the entire body. If I change the color, for instance, if I take out the radius, so I'm saying this thing, I said let it have radius gradient for the background. If I comment out all of this, for instance, okay, if I comment out all of this, for instance, save it, you will see that our Cocoa food page will not look good as we want it to be. Can you see? It's now white. because I have removed the entire background. I don't know if you get this. So the background in the background in the CSS is specifically saying that it should be gradient background scale of 12%, 10%. And I don't have to, I mean, in this class, we are not learning all these jargons anymore. AI can write it for you with ease, but you just need to understand how it works. Just in case you want to change that background. If, for instance, I come back to now say, in my body, I want a background, okay, a background of, let's say, red. Let's use hexadecimal red, okay? And I come back here, you can see it's completely red. Do you get it now? The background of my page is red. If for instance you don't want, let's go to this kind of website, for instance, where I might not want no, I just want to show. Look at this website, for instance, this application. You can see that if you notice, it's also gradient background. Let's find another one. Yeah, you can see this application has no background color. So if you want background in your entire page throughout, either a gradient background or no background at all, I can even call in an image here. Look at this one. Look at it. Let me just show. Let's go back. So I said red. Okay, you can see I comment out what the AI wrote. And this is why you need to understand these principles. Because AI had given you a gradient background. It's using what they call RGBA. RGBA is a combination of 4 colors, which is red, green, okay, black, okay. So it's actually called RGB anyway, but the A is a new injection. So the A is the opacity, yes. So the color is, you know, when you mix red, green and black, it forms a particular color. But just study this reference material for all of this. Just study this reference material for all of this. Now, you get how it works. So there are selectors, there are declaration. Inside the declaration, there is a property, and there is a value, right? So we can go on and on to visiting HTML. Now, let's look at selector. This is very important. And then this is where we're going to stop this particular outline. There are all manner of selectors. The first type of selector is simple selectors. The simple selectors also have type. The simple selectors are the popular ones, like element selectors, ID selectors, and class selector. I will show you in that code. There are another type of selector class is what we call combinator selector. Combinator selector is where you have 2 types of selectors. So either you have let's say you have 2 element selectors. I will also show you. Okay, you have a pseudo class selector. A pseudo class selector is a call to a class, but it's a pseudo that's a reference. Okay, yes, it selects element based on certain states. Yes, and there's also pseudo element selector. This is also pseudoing elements in your this thing. There's also attribute selector, and I'll show you all of them. So let's start with simple selectors like element selector. So look at element selector, and that's what I've done here. Okay, in your code base, this is a simple element selector. Now, this is just selecting HTML. There will be a lot of element selector in your code. For instance, H1, H2, H3. Now, because we now put it together, H1, H2, H3, it has now become a combinator selector. It has become a combinator selector. That is multiple element selectors. Okay. Now you can see H1 standing alone here. H1 standing alone here is now also a simple element selector. Now this is a pseudo collector. Yeah, this is pseudo element selector. Now these 2 elements are a conditional element. Okay, so they are conditional elements, and the condition must be met before this particular declaration fires. And what is the condition here? It says that if an header is inside a paragraph, let this fires. This declaration must fire. And don't forget, this declaration has properties and values. So if this element is inside this element, let this declaration fire. Whilst if this element is not inside the other element, it should not fire. Okay. Now you can see element selector here. Now you can see another type of selector here. And what type of selector is that? That's an attribute selector. An attribute selector. Okay. Like over etc. I'm looking for class selector. I don't know why. This is an ID selector. ID selector starts with an hash. It starts with an hash. Now, if I'm the one that write this code, if I had written this code myself without AI, I will use a lot of class selector. I will use more of class selector. You can see that it barely use any class selector for this. And that's why you must understand what is happening. So you can call in something right now and give it a class, okay? I believe by the time he writes more and more of this CSS, he will start using a class selector. Thank you. In the next module, that covers entire CSS, right? This covers entire CSS. In the next module, we'll be talking about UI design, UI UX driven by AI. Okay. Thank you. See you in the next lesson. Bye.